morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where it's already begun. The slowing down of the movie news cycle as everybody starts to take off for Thanksgiving here in the United States next week. So there are very few stories to discuss today, and I expect even fewer next week. So if you want to ask questions here on Morning Movie News, this is a great time to do it, because methinks I might have to be doing more than one viewer question in an episode. Although the last Morning Movie News for next week will be Wednesday. It'll be off Thursday and Friday, and then return the week after. But trailers aplenty are coming out. We got Kong Skull Island last night. Transformers is rumored for tomorrow. And also Silence, the new Martin Scorsese movie with both Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver and Liam Neeson, is set to debut early next week. Oh, it's a fabulous time for movie fans. But I did manage to find 3 stories for us to discuss today. And the first is about the Great Wall. I was doing the rounds, pulling images for the videos I was editing yesterday. And a site that I often go to is IMP Awards, Internet Movie Poster Awards. And what they do is they have all the latest posters. It's a great place to find all the posters that you need for movies that are currently coming out and have come out in the past. So what they do on their homepage is they'll have the latest posters that have just come out. It's a feed. And I was so pleased to see a new set of posters for The Great Wall. That's the Matt Damon movie that was made as a partnership between China and Legendary. And it was really brought down by Constance Wu as a white savior film, which I thought was too bad, because I feel that the film is trying really hard to be a true collaboration. The second trailer didn't do much to back me up on that, but these posters, here's some evidence I can use. So they're character posters, but the one I've included here, you can see little miniature character posters I put up, but you can see this group poster as well. And while Matt Damon, Pedro Pascal, and Willem Dafoe are, you can see them in the center, top center, and on the right there, the rest of the cast is the Chinese actors, and they're all prominently displayed, clearly outnumbering the Western actors. And you can see Andy Lau there in the upper left, and then also Jian Ting is the woman in the front and center, and we've been talking about her a lot lately. She's in Kong Skull Island, the upcoming Pacific Rim 2. Legendary is investing in her heavily. It looks like they're doing an open casting call for Mulan for the Disney movie, but maybe Jian Ting could be Sony's Mulan. If I were her agents, I would be furiously working to get her at least to audition for one of the Mulan movies. Now you can see these posters feature Chinese writing, so it would seem that perhaps they're only meant to be displayed in China. I'll be curious to see what the US posters look like, but I would hope that they would do the same, because you're not kidding anyone. When they show up to the movie, it's going to be like a 70% Asian cast. So, truth in advertising. I mean, either a moviegoer is into this or they're not. Now, what I do like, though, is this U.S.-style posters for not just, U.S. films will release character posters for China. For instance, Rogue One just released a lot of character posters for China. But the difference is that this is a movie that, in some ways, is a Chinese film. It's 50% a Chinese film. So for them to do character posters is, I think, a really interesting development. To see China, as they become more competitive in the global film industry, to start to maybe borrow a couple of pages from our advertising playbook. So I think that's great. I think that, also these Asian actors must have some kind of a presence in the film to get a character poster, right? I mean, you at least have, it's like, not every X-Men who gets a character poster has a large role, but they certainly have a chance to make an impression. So I'm very encouraged that all of these Chinese actors have a big enough role in the film to get themselves a character poster. I'm very excited for The Great Wall, and I think these posters are quite encouraging. I wish that the trailers made it seem as much of like a collaboration as these posters do. But I'm curious, are you planning to see The Great Wall? Do you like that it's 50% Chinese? And if you saw a poster like this in a U.S. movie theater, would you be like, oh, that's cool? Or would you be like, get out of my U.S. theater, right? We're going to revisit this kind of thought with the viewer question today. But anyway, let's go on to the second story of the day, which is an interesting story The Hollywood Reporter ran about movie stars on TV. Now, at the beginning, it was like, oh, all the good roles are on television. Or if you're an actress, they're writing better roles for women on TV. But it would seem to have become a situation where it's not good roles that motivate movie stars to go to the smaller screen, but the money. Because wait until you hear these salaries. Meryl Streep, for her upcoming series that J.J. Abrams is producing, The Knicks, it doesn't have a home yet, but she's going to be paid $825,000 an episode. Robert De Niro for David O. Russell's Amazon show, $750,000 per episode. Dwayne Johnson over on HBO for Ballers makes $450,000 an episode. And then here, I didn't even know this was coming, Netflix is doing a remake of the Norwegian show Maniac. It's going to star Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, and they're getting $350,000 per episode. So what's driving this is Netflix and Amazon being extremely competitive and hoping to pull in viewership with big names. Although it's worth noting that it doesn't always work. And for instance, the Woody Allen show, which had an amazing budget over on Amazon, came and went. No one paid any attention to it. We'll see if it's remembered when awards season for television rolls back around. But the space is becoming extremely competitive at this point, so they're hoping the big names can help new shows stand out from the crowd. Also, the article said that viewership is shrinking per episode, which is interesting. Perhaps there's too much content out there, too many choices, so that's just going to there's only so many hours in a day, right? So that's going to water down, every show's viewership. Also, Netflix and Amazon are paying so much money up front because these are deals that have no back end. A lot of times, if a show does well enough, it'll eventually go into syndication, and there's DVD sales for people, or Blu-ray sales for people who want to binge watch eventually. And in traditional cases, talent would see a cut of that money. But Netflix and Amazon want you to get paid up front and then leave. And that's also the same deal with their movies. For instance, the Salaries on the upcoming Bright film, written by Max Landis, directed by David Ayer, those payments are so high because there's no back-end participation there either. So Netflix and Amazon agents have said we're negotiating with Amazon for Salaries with that in mind, that there's no money coming down the pipeline later. Then also, for sitcoms, they still continue to be, if you can get yourself on a very popular sitcom, that's still the biggest moneymaker. For instance, on Big Bang Theory, I believe both Jim Parsons and Johnny Galecki get paid $1.1 million an episode, and they get back end for syndication. That's why people on Seinfeld, the 4 stars of Seinfeld, and Larry David, have so much money. Every time those air on Netflix or on like TBS or one of your local channels, a check goes out to those actors. Same for old shows like Frasier, Friends. So much money. There aren't as many popular sitcoms today, although Modern Family, The Goldbergs, the magic number is, that's why you'll see when a sitcom reaches its 5th season or completes its 5th season, they have, I guess when they get the go-ahead to have a 5th season, they'll have a big cake. That's a money cake, because that means once you have 5 seasons, that's enough to run in syndication. That means you have enough episodes to run in syndication. So that means everyone who has a back-end deal, which is usually the people in the photo with the cake, is going to get paid forever. All right, so Game of Thrones, though, is coming up on the tail of sitcoms. $1.1 million has been renegotiated for several of their key cast members for each episode for the next 2 seasons. And then also The Walking Dead, Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus get paid anywhere between $650 to $550 an episode. Although when you think of the social media impact and just the pure eyeballs on Game of Thrones and Walking Dead, those actors are worth it. But very interesting to see how much money is in TV. All right, then the final story of the day is that Pictures, run by Megan Ellison, whose father, David Ellison, personally funds both her production company, Annapurna Pictures, and her brothers, Skydance, in Hollywood. Skydance is very commercial, Annapurna is very awards-friendly. So she's done movies. That's where she's been working. She's very auteur-driven. The Master, Sausage Party is hers, Zero Dark 30. And it was assumed that she was going to move into television because she recently poached HBO's Sue Nagle. Well, she didn't poach Sue Nagle. Sue Nagle already had left HBO and started her own company. So in some ways, Megan Ellison saved Sue Nagle from her company that wasn't going so well, her solo company. But anyway, it seems now that instead of going into television, or at least traditional television, Annapurna Pictures might be moving into the digital space. Digital TV shows like Amazon and Netflix, and then also potentially games and VR experiences, virtual reality, because these are 2 other people she's recently poached. So it looks like Netflix isn't the only one poaching executives in Hollywood. Everybody's getting paid a lot of money. Movie stars on television, executives behind the scenes. It's crazy. So this is who Annapurna took. Fox marketing president Mark Weinstock, and Weinstein distribution chief Eric Loomis. Those were considered very big gets and a loss for both Fox and the Weinstein Company because those people no longer work there. And then also, apparently, they weren't big enough to get their names in the paper, but several Sony gaming executives were also hired away to join Annapurna Pictures. So she wants to get into mobile gaming in the VR space, but she wants to continue to be auteur-driven. And you know that Robert De Niro show I just mentioned for Amazon where he's getting paid $750,000 an episode? Well, that's Annapurna's. So I think it'll be interesting to see if, I mean, Annapurna Pictures, it was a really big deal when it started, and she just had so much money, and she gave it out like candy to talent she respected. She was like, no notes, make whatever you want. And I think to some degree that hasn't quite worked. I don't think these films have been nominated and are certainly well respected, but I think Megan Ellison still doesn't have a big wow movie where, it was a big winner and everyone was really impressed with it. I think she's churning out, it seemed like very self-indulgent movies. And, some people like, I think Inherent Vice was also hers. I mean, I would say that anybody who, I really like Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, but I think ever since he's teamed up with Megan Ellison on Annapurna, I think that his films aren't as good because, he's not being challenged. I think, filmmaking is a team business for a reason. So I'm not a huge fan of what Megan Ellison has done. Well, I wouldn't say I'm not upset about it or anything, but I think it's not as impressive as we had originally thought she would be in the marketplace. So I don't really know what she's going to be able to achieve in the digital space either. But she's certainly got a good team. Let's see if they'll be able to score any points. All right, so as for the viewer question, I thought this was an interesting one. This is from the Mad Bomber 187. And the Mad Bomber says, Grace, I have a question for you. Do you think Disney would ever do a live-action remake of Aladdin, given the fact that America has a problem with Muslims? Well, first of all, I want to say not all of America has a problem with Muslims. I think that, let's not forget that, the vote for president was split. Actually, 1 million more votes for the Democratic ticket than for the Republican. And also, as many of you point out, not everybody who voted for Trump is Islamophobic, right? So I think it certainly does create a problem for Disney. If I were Disney, I would be a little bit nervous about this. However, so let me talk to you about why I think they probably still will make it and why they should make it. So it is important to note that they are planning to, first of all, to make a live-action Aladdin, as Guy Ritchie has been signed to the movie, but they have no set release date, etc. So anyway, the reason I think they should make a live-action Aladdin and continue to do that and to continue with their plans is that entertainment goes a long way towards changing how the general mainstream feels about certain demographics. Like, for instance, I don't know if Barack Obama could have been elected president if not for Dennis Haysbert's portrayal of a black president on 24. Very successful portrayal, very well-liked character, and that was back in 2001, a decade before Barack Obama was elected, or around a decade before Barack Obama was elected to office. So I think that sowed the seeds and it put it in people's headspace. So it didn't, for people who might have a problem with it initially, they'd already kind of like gotten used to the idea. So I think that that's a purpose that entertainment serves that shouldn't be taken lightly. And that's why sometimes, and I want to say, I'm never a fan of forced diversity. I'm a fan of representative diversity, authentic diversity to the world that we live in today and who's going to the movies, etc. So I think that I don't think you should have tokenism, and I don't think you should have tone-deaf diversity, which is one of the things I critiqued Fantastic Beasts for, one of the only things I had a problem with it for, and you can hear my discussion over in my spoiler review. But I think that in the next stage is really, demystifying the Muslim community to a lot of Americans, right? So that's why I think Riz Ahmed's success is so incredibly important. I loved him in The Night Of, a lot of people did, and also he's in the new Rogue One movie, and I hope he has a very, very solid role, and I hope people, when they see him being so heroic and such a great guy, I'm such a big Riz Ahmed fan, I hope that it will start to, not make the Muslim community seem like the other, but like one of us. And so also with so that's why with Guy Ritchie's Aladdin, and I actually think that Riz Ahmed would make a great Aladdin. But I think first Mulan is going to come. That's coming in 2018. That does have a release date. And again, some of you have sent me casting calls for that film, so they're moving ahead. And so I think they'll want to see how that does. But Disney overall seems very committed to diversity, as you can see from their slate, and especially their upcoming slate. And as far as an Aladdin movie goes, while they could hit some problems in the United States, Aladdin would be a global property. And, I think they could potentially do very well in the Indian marketplace, just like they did with The Jungle Book. And The Jungle Book did very well in India. And that, of course, starred Neil Sethi. But I would like to point out also, though, that The Jungle Book did very well in the United States. So, and I hope that that's a different situation because Neil Sethi was the only human character and he was a kid. But Aladdin, of course, would feature a number of, Middle Eastern characters as adults. And I don't think that you could whitewash that movie without just getting, completely hammered. And I don't see why anybody would want that. The animated movie, well, they used, Caucasian voices, but still, I think that an authentic Aladdin would be really, I think that the animated movie will go a long way also towards helping that out. And it's also been doing very well on Broadway as a show that's very diverse, that's cast correctly. They didn't whitewash that show. They even have a black actor as the genie, and he's been celebrated, and I believe he won a Tony for the role. So. But the important thing is that the ticket sales are there as well, because we know that the Broadway community is very diverse and interested in that and wouldn't have any problems. But what we're talking about, the Mad Bomber is talking about, are ticket sales. So I would still make Aladdin. I'd be a little nervous about it, but you know what? I think if Aladdin's really good, if it's a really good movie and they cast really dynamic actors of the correct ethnicity, I think they would have another Jungle Book on their hands. I think it would be really wonderful. So I'm curious, though, how do you feel about it? I know that a number of you did, I'm glad to see such a diverse group of people watching Beyond the Trailer. I know a number of you did vote for Trump, and so I would be curious, how would you feel about an Aladdin movie that was, ethnically correct in the casting and featured Middle Eastern and probably some Muslim actors? Would that be a movie you were interested in seeing? Write your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, the Mad Bomber 187, for your question. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories, the Mad Bomber's question, and anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.